Okay, good morning or afternoon, everyone. My name is James Henderson, and I am going to be, for the next 45 minutes, taking you through some of the tools that are a part of our deck design program, and hopefully maybe teaching a few things, enlightening you to what you can do with the program. I have basically opened up a sample drawing for this lesson. And I'm not really working from a script. I'm just going to be going ahead and doing a bit of a design on the fly. And I have an idea of where I want to go. And as we unfold the deck design, I'll be opening up the microphones and asking if you have any questions. And we can just see where this goes. The premise of this entire thing is to make you open up your eyes, I guess, a little bit to what you can do with the program to enable you to be able to go ahead and do your designs and confidently maybe show a deck or outdoor living space within the program. I'm using SoftPlan 2016, and it is SoftPlan Plus, so you may see me access some plus symbols today that we're going to use. Everything that we are going to do as far as the drawing part of the program, you can do in both the remodel as well as the full version of the SoftPlan. So as far as the deck design is concerned, posts and beams, all of that is going to apply across the board. And then, as I said, there may be a few symbols, et cetera, that I reach for depending on time that you may not have, but you may have access, to more generic type symbols that ship with the software. Okay. With the SoftPlan drawing screen up that you can see now at this point, literally if I go to draw, on the ribbon bar you will see I have access to all of the deck tools that are there. And this is where I'm going to begin the drawing process. And so I will have the option of going in and drawing decks as an entity, which is to say I'll simply sketch the polygon. It will go through, it will add the surface or the deck boards to go along with the joists and the band or ring joist that runs around the outside. I can break it down into individual components, which are, listed down below, and even sister up specific joists, as it goes with the engineering of the specific deck. I will introduce today parting boards where we can break up the deck surface, if you will, and that's going to allow us to then run, the surfaces in different directions, maybe a herringbone type style that's going to be on there. We will hopefully talk about deck benches, the ability to go in and with just a simple sketch or outline of where the back of the deck bench is going to be. We'll produce one of those complete with all of the materials it'll take to build it. And that's going to be the key in everything that we draw today is we're drawing towards a bill of materials. This is a BIM model, so we should be expected to get 3Ds, elevations, and the material listing for what it would take to build what we're doing, okay? We will talk about railings, both the auto railing as well as individual railings and how you can modify and specify those. And last but not least, we'll also be talking about stairs and introducing a couple of different versions of stairs that you can put in there. So with that said, I'm going to come in and just for the ease of visual, I'm going to come through and just simply erase the dimensions across the back of the building right now. And that's just so that we don't have, if you will, I guess, extra things that are on the drawing that might be, cluttering it up, so that we're basically just working with this blank area back here. So once I have cleared that out for right now, and I can always come back and redimension it, etc., I will come in through the draw and go to deck, and in this case, select the first option for deck. As I say, at this point now, I'm basically sketching the perimeter of where the deck is going to go. And so I'm not even zooming at this point or forcing too much accuracy. Much like what you do with drawing of walls, you're going to basically begin a sketch and edit type process. So watching the tape measure in the status bar up here, I'm simply going to click in the corner approximately and run that cursor from bottom towards top of screen and to approximately 12 feet and click. Now I'm going to simply run my cursor over, and again, I'm just using the house outline at this stage as much as anything for where I want to, begin sketching or the outline of the deck, and I will click. And now I'm basically, at this point, continuing the design. I'll just, trace the approximate outlines of where I think I want this deck to go, and I'm just creating basically a shape or polygon outline. And when I do this, what you will see at this point is when the polygon completes, it will go ahead and outline or place the deck components in to build the deck as it is. And as I jump into 3D, you can see there's my deck at this stage. Now it is suspended. We've got lots that we're going to do in terms of the engineering, etc. But as I just kind of pan around and take a look at what I'm doing, all right, the top of the deck surface is going to find where the floor system is. It's going to run that across, correctly for me. When you take a look at the deck, as you place it, it's going to place reference circles on each side of the polygon. This allows you to then adjust that reference circle, if necessary, to find a material that you're attempting to snap it to. So, for example, I got close on where I want the edge of the deck to be placed as far as the ring joist is concerned, but it's not necessarily properly snapping to the outside of the brick to create a clean line there. I can come in through Adjust Item in the same way that you would do with, say, a roof or ceiling or any other polygon item that has a reference circle. Select the reference circle, drag it to the wall, and snap it to. And when I do this now, it properly aligns the edge of the overhang, if you will, of the deck flush with that brick wall. So the same thing, I'm just panning over here, running left to right. I've got an overlap here of material. So once again, using Adjust Item, select the reference circle, and drag it to the wall. Okay? When that reference circle goes solid, it tells me that it found that wall as it did on these three sides of the polygon and automatically snaps it to. Now, you will notice as far as the reference circles are concerned, when they were drawn in, you have two different kinds. And those of you who have worked with SoftPlan for a period of time will recognize that the triangle often represents the reference edge of something. In particular, with floor joists, it's where the joists begin their spacing, and then we lay them out at 60-inch centers and so on. In this case, if I were to edit this edge of the joist, you can see that the deck surface, okay, when I pull up the deck edge menu, is actually checked. Okay, and so then the decking angle is run from there at a 0. And in this case over here, if I edit this deck edge, this is where the joist reference edge is set to, and the joists then begin their spacing from that edge. Now I can move this around. I can come over to the edge that I want the joist to begin their spacing from. I could edit this and make this the reference edge. You will see that on screen there, the joist actually adjusted accordingly, because with the reference edge now moved to this point, the first joist is laid out 16 inches from that side, and so on, according to the measurements or the structural parameters of the deck itself. Okay? When you edit any one of these edges, you have that option of changing the reference edge. So in this case here, I may edit this edge here and move the deck surface to there. Okay, and now it's running from this back towards the house, or vice versa. I can move it from the house towards the edge of the outer edge of the deck. And so in this case here, once again, I've now edited the edge that's the innermost edge off of the family room. I'm going to edit that as the reference edge so that my deck surface starts here and then the boards run out towards the edge on the outside. I'm going to run a cleanup and a save at this point, and when I do that, I can now go in and begin the dimensioning of the deck. So all we've done right now is just simply sketch it in, explain what the reference circles do, and how you can modify the direction of the joist as well as the deck surface based on where the reference edge is going to be. So carrying on from there, then the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to actually come in and now pull dimensions off of this deck that we have drawn. And so using the, and I'm using a lot of toolbar icons as opposed to keyboard shortcuts today, okay, just so that you can see where I pull these things from. But if I go to Dimension, I can select Item Extension, simply click on the edge of the deck and pull the extension lines out. And you can see that in this case here, it now pulls extension lines off of the edge. I can do the same thing with the single extension, whereby I could pull off extension lines so that I'm able to properly dimension the deck, edges. Once I have pulled all of my extension lines off, I will select dimension, and in this case now I'm simply going to run my dimension strings across, the various edges of where I want them to be pulled. And so in this case now, if I were to hit Control Q on the keyboard, the dimensions will be enlarged, which will allow me to now see, exactly what my dimensions are, for visually. Right-clicking on the dimensions will allow me to now go in and dimension these. Okay, so in this case here, I'm simply going to hit 12 feet. The key here is I wish to move the deck edge, not the wall, so I will hit the up arrow key, which will adjust this deck edge, and is also this dimension here, accordingly. Working left to right in a similar fashion to how I would basically do a house where I run, it left to right and oftentimes top towards bottom. I'll now just go in and key these dimensions in, removing fractions from the design as I go. And really, this part here is just as it comes down to design, so to speak, right? And so I will edit, that one's there, and then this one here, we can edit it, and I will make it, let's say, 9'10", which will also, modify that dimension there. So let's maybe make this an exact, let's say, 10 feet, and just even it off. All right. I will run a cleanup, and I will run a save on my deck at this point. So those are my dimensions into place already on the deck, okay, having laid it out. Moving forward, or the next step that we're going to do is perhaps go in and lay some of the structural out, because as I say, all we've done so far, if I were to go in and take a look at this, is really just laid out all of the joists, and the entire thing is basically just being suspended. So we'll want to put some beams and posts and such in there in order to get this, properly, created for our elevations. Coming into the floor plan, I'm going to, at this stage, go into the draw deck beam, option that is there. And so if I select draw and I select deck, you'll have a list of beams that are already predefined in there. And you can select from these and you can, add them to your plan. Okay, so in this case here, I'm simply going to go down to the, let's see, 3 2x10 pressure treated beam that we're going to use. And so when I do this, I'm going to click OK. And I'm zoomed in because so I can see exactly where I want this deck beam to be placed. And in this case now, I'm just going to run this deck beam all the way across, left to right, and drop it in. And so when I edit this beam, okay, it's going to call up, basically what the length is, and I could break that up into, segments if necessary. Okay, it's going to, call off the material that's there. All right, as far as the offset is concerned, it will automatically offset that below the deck for us. The 9.5 inches is basically based on the actual joist depth that we see there. Okay, and so if I were to, I'm just going to come in and right-click on the deck beam, and I'm going to move this so it's just inside the ring joist of the deck itself. Okay, and so we have just, if I look at the 3D, we have just placed the pressure-treated deck beam underneath the deck. All right, so I'm going to add one more of these, and I didn't do anything with the offset again. It was all, automatically done. So I'll just select, right-click on the beam, pick Draw Select from the Quick Select menu, and again, I'm just going to, draw one of these in across so that we have got, another supporting structure there. Okay, again, I will run a cleanup and a save on the deck beam and settings that are there. With that done, the next thing that we will want to do, and of course I could pull dimensions off of this. You can simply, just private message, can I dimension that into place? I just pulled a simple single extension off of there, and then I could certainly pull dimensions off. It's placed at this stage visually so that the edge of the deck beam is right against the ring joist at this point. So that's why the dimensions are what they are, because of how I set this up, and I could edit these and adjust it accordingly as well. All right. Adding posts and such, which would be basically the next thing we want to do to support this actual beam, is also going to be pulled from the from the post library. And so once again, if I come in through Draw and Deck, you will have another option there. Okay, so we've drawn the actual deck itself, and then we've drawn the beams in, and next we want to put structural posts in for the drawing. And so if I click on this, you will see at this stage that it's going to open up the post library. And when you click on it, it's really kind of the same selection as if you went to draw and post. And what we want to do here is simply go to the structural post. Once I've selected that, I will have my option of picking from any one of these posts. And the top four right here are block piers, and then we get into the pressure-treated posts. And so if I select the 6x6 pressure-treated post, that would fit for what we're trying to do with the deck design. And so I will simply click OK to actually place this on. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in on this area right here. So it was just simply draw, post, deck, post, and then structural and 6x6 pressure treated post. And I'm going to turn on my snap function. And this is a function you may or may not be aware of, but when you click on this, what it will allow you to do is make sure that you snap directly underneath the beam. And what I'm talking about is this actual width in this direction here, okay? And so when you come in to actually sketch and place the post, it's going to snap directly underneath the beam itself. And in this case now I can actually move just simply by right-clicking on it and setting it up against the rim joist running around the deck. Now, when you take a look at this inside 3D, there's the post I just added. So I'm going to click the Zoom to Surface, and I'm going to zoom over and take a look at what we've got. Okay? When I put this in, it's going to go to certain defaults as far as offsets and heights and such are going to be concerned. Okay? So I'm going to edit this this actual post that we put in, and the first thing I'm going to do is there's probably going to be an offset where we're pushing this down into the grade, into the actual site plan itself. Now you're at a bit of a disadvantage because you don't know the site and so on. But basically, I do have a bit of a flat site back here that's about 3 feet below the top of the brick wall, and so if I type in 7 feet. Down, the default was 4, it's going to drop that sonotube down into the actual grade itself. Okay, and so that's going to push that down. Now the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to want to adjust. We're not going to carry this all the way through because we're not actually creating a roof out of this. We want it to stop at the underside of the beam. And so on the post edit dialog box, after going into comment and offsetting the post to where I want it to be, I can go into the post tab and select adjust height to fit the beam. When I do this, SoftPlan will automatically calculate what the new height needs to be in order to have that post sit underneath the beam itself. Okay, so it calculates the height out for you. You don't have to worry about it. You've simply placed it where you need it to be, and at this stage I will click OK and once again come back into the main floor plan. Now, in the case of placing other posts that I want on here, of course I've got my dimension up here, which tells me give or take about 24 feet running from this corner to this corner right here. So we know we're going to put a post there, and structurally we're probably going to place another couple of posts in here in order to get it properly set up. I'm going to use an option in here that is called divide segments. Now what divide segments will do is when you go to the miscellaneous tab, it's a tool right here, and it's going to allow me to go in and basically set up insertion points at equal distance or spacing. Okay, so when I do that, then I can go in and actually insert my posts exactly where I want them as far as these divide segments are concerned. There's nothing to stop me from doing a copy, if you will, and I can certainly offset or copy this post and just say every 6 feet drop one in. But what I'll do is just to show you how this tool works is I pick miscellaneous and divide segments. I'm going to position my cursor inside that edge where that ring joist is, and then just simply run the cursor straight across to this other edge over here and click. Now when I do that, it's going to prompt me for how many segments I wish to divide this up into, and I'll simply select 3 and press OK. what you will see is, if I zoom in, there are actual construction points being dropped, which will tell me exactly where I want to place my my posts as I begin, sketching them in. And so, as I said, instead of using the copy and then moving, I'm just going to now right-click, select the post, and pick Draw Select. I can now, with my snap feature on, hone in on where that construction point is and click to have it inserted. And once again, click and have it inserted. And then finally, this last one, I will click and have it inserted. Now, you can always move these where you want them to be specific. But the key to this is, first of all, the construction points allows me to lay posts out, okay, at equal distance without having to pull all the dimensions off initially. And secondly, the Draw Select tool will allow me to now draw the exact same post, the one that was edited, multiple times, in this case, using all of the editing tools or editing properties that were assigned to that actual post. And so now, just to take it, carried on, I can use the move and copy if necessary, if that's what we want to do. And I will just simply copy a post. I can say 1 on that copy there. And then I could, do a secondary copy based on the distance being 7'6". We probably just want one more over there. So simply press the copy tool. And again, I will just copy this one over to here. And again, as I say, in time, we could, pull this off and pull exact dimensions. But for the planning stages right now, we're getting, pretty far. We've been at it for about 20 minutes, and we already have the deck, the beam, and the posts all laid out. And that's only because we're taking the time to explain everything as we go. Okay? So again, I'm going to come in through the Draw Select. I'm going to pick that. And we're going to want another one here, and I'm just going to move it into place relatively quickly. And I will copy another one over to this edge here. Okay. And lastly, I could Draw Select, and with the snap feature on, find the center of the beam. You'll see the triangle that was pulled up there and automatically snap one into the middle. Okay, so and so that's that at this stage is what we've got. Now, as far as, let me just pull up a little bit of brightness on the 3D model. Okay. And I'm also going to come in through setup options for just 1 second. And under the textured lighting, I'm going to turn the ambient light up, which will hopefully brighten it up just a little bit and make it a little bit easier for you to see some of the details that we're working on, just because it might be a little bit on the dark side that's there. Okay. Now, from this point here, I can go in and I can certainly, add other posts and so on. That's what I'm intending to do right now, really quickly, because just to finish it, some of these things out, so that when we are finished, we've got something that resembles copy block. And what the copy block will allow me to do is now, select in its entirety, multiple posts and copy them into place. And in this case, one more here that I missed. And so you can just see, I'm just using, basic tools to get everything copied so that we've got a full structural layout of where we want set. And I've got one there already. So as I take a look, we've got our posts in place. Okay. Now we don't have an actual. I haven't put any beams across the front here, and so in this case here, if I was just doing this on the fly, and if I needed to have a beam that's running out here on top of this, I'm just going to come in and just select the Draw Select and run one across. or I could have edited those posts themselves and also modified what the height is going to be on these. Now you can do some of this stuff within 3D, so you can do an adjust, and I'm just selecting the beam, and I'm adjusting it to where the height needs to be, okay? I could take it all the way up so that I know exactly where it's, and then using the edit and duplicate tool, so that's just edit and duplicate item, I can pick this post, and then I can assign the same dimension changes to these posts, assuming that they're running up and we're just fastening the ring joist to them, as opposed to running a beam, which is what I did over on this side, just so that we can show up both the draw select as well as how we do this. Okay, that's for the most part the basics of this deck being laid out. Okay, so if I were to edit this deck, I have worked off of the dimensions of 9.5 inches, spacing at 16 inches on center. It is pressure treated, okay, but we put a red cedar finish on it. That will become important when we're doing bill of materials, and also maybe important when I go to 3D and want to assign colors and so on. All right, we've added the pressure-treated beams underneath as well as the posts. Probably the next thing that we want to do with something like this is we're going to go in and we're going to add, a railing to it. And so using the zoom surface, I'm just going to, zoom this up a little bit so we can see what we're looking at. And so we're going to add, some sort of a railing that runs all the way around, on this, and then we'll add a staircase in here. And then if we have time, we'll add a lower deck on the other side, behind this room right here. So inside the floor plan, if I come in through draw and I select deck and I select railing. Now there are two different options that are there. If you select the auto railing, okay, you can select from the list of railings that are here. You'll see deck, and then I can go through and I can select either the chamfer, that's a fairly common type deck railing that you might use. We can also use the standard square to get something a little more contemporary on there. And so once I have done that and I click OK, using that, it's going to place a deck railing all the way around the perimeter. Okay, so that's automatic, and it does that for us. And then this railing could be modified after the fact. Okay, now you can edit this railing at any time, so I've just simply done a right click on it, and you'll see the properties, such as it has a square rail, it does have a toe rail that's running all the way across. Okay, spindles, they're going to be square, etc. And then you've got your end posts, and based on what their dimensions are. You will also be able to come in and modify from this list that's here, okay, to different types of rails, or in my case, I just simply want to go in and add things like mid posts. And so if I do this, what I'm going to do is simply come into the checkbox for intermediate posts and click. And once I do this, I can now select the number of mid posts that we wish to place, and you'll see that it adds, in this case, 3 mid posts to that railing. Okay, so once again, I could right click and edit this edge here, go to mid posts, and in this case, I'm simply going to add 1. And so it goes, depending on where you need them. You can also modify things like dimensions on this. So whereby the spindles in this case are square. If I wanted to go in and change that, I could go to a round rail that's going to be used in here, because possibly I'm going to use more of a an iron type rail that we're going to use on this, and I could go so far as to also take out the toe rail so that these rails now run down to the actual deck themselves. And so again, I'm just going to do a repeat edit to have that same change applied to the different rails that we are applying this to. And so I'm just working my way around and doing a repeat edit. Now you're going to see I've skipped 1 here because I'm going to do something with that rail in just a second, which is to say get rid of it. And so I've just done a repeat edit all the way around. So we now have square posts, round spindles, just changing on the plane. And of course you could have done that with, I could have went to turned or colonial or something else. Okay? So that's my railing. And the railing itself, when you apply it, it's going to have these reference circles assigned to it, which attaches it to the edge. Now, The placement of the railing itself, if you do a right click and you do an edit on the deck, okay, the railing, when it pulls up the dimensions on it, okay, when you edit this deck, it's pulling up the dimensions on the actual deck itself, but you will notice that the railings, okay, can also be aligned or positioned relative to the deck themselves. Currently, right now, there is no positioning of it, and so I can come in at this stage now, and with the align set, I can choose to center it on the ring joist. I can move it to the outside, or even move the rail inside. And so if I select the inside, and I were to come in here and let's say type in 3 inches, you would notice that the rail itself is actually stepped inside the actual deck, okay, measuring from center of the rim joist to the center of the rail. And so now what we've done is I've moved this, instead of it aligning to the outside edge, we've moved it in by that dimension of 3 inches. Okay, so that's, if you need to position the rail, you'll want to go in and edit the actual deck itself, and then you set the position from there, okay? In particular, if you were drawing, if I were to come into railing, and now we're doing this rail right here, oftentimes this may be positioned on the outside edge of your deck. And if that's the case, then you would edit the deck, set the position to outside, and push it outside so that it aligns with the, or comes down and overlaps the rim joist running around the outside. Okay? All right, now, just keep zooming in and out just to kind of give you guys an overall feel of where we're at. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is we're going to create a staircase in here for this deck. And so I'm going to come in and I'm going to right click, and I need to find the rail, and I'm going to actually select explode. And when I do that, it's going to break the rail into individual pieces, which will allow me to now erase a portion of, let me erase that rail out. Okay, so when I did the right click and I did the explode item, what it does is it breaks each of these rails into individual pieces. That allows me to remove this center portion of the rail out of the drawing. Okay, once I do that, now I can come in and add a staircase that's going to run, from the ground, if you will, up to the staircase itself. And so inside the floor plan, I'm going to, zoom this area up right here, and I'm going to come in through Draw and Deck, and I can select Stair, and in my case, I'm going to select Sketch, okay, which will allow me to, if you go to Stair, just to point it out, you can find that there are predefined staircases in there, and I suspect most of you are fairly, comfortable with, pulling it from a library. So in my case, what I'm going to do is with the Draw, Deck, and then Stair, if I select Sketch and I pick Straight, at this stage now, what I can do is I'm going to come in and I'm going to position my cursor where I want the staircase to start. I'm going to run my cursor at the approximate width of said staircase and click, and then run the stair up to the deck itself and click. Now when I do this, it's going to place the deck stair in, and you will see that basically what's going to happen is as I go into the 3D, okay, the staircase is now running up towards the top of the deck. Okay, now there's several things that I can take into account when I edit my actual deck itself. And so when I edit the deck, I can see, what dimensions are being used, and I can also go in, as far as knowing where the site is, relative to the top of the deck, etc. I would then come in and modify, if necessary, what this staircase is supposed to be doing as far as the dimensions are concerned. So I can change things like what the staircase rise is going to be, and you can see that as I do, it's going to, automatically, modify or change that. I can also change things like what the offset is going to be. So based on if it finds a site and if it finds, the plan, etc., you can, change that to be, what it needs to be in order to sit on the site and run up to the deck stair itself. The key here is that you can go through and you can specify all kinds of information as it pertains to, what the stair run is going to be, what the stair width is going to be relative to, how you design this. okay, you'll be able to go in and add left and right railings, for the actual staircase itself. And again, we can then specify, what the dimensions are going to be on something like that. Okay, we can go down to, as we're moving down this, we've got the number of risers, and based on the total rise that I put in, it will divide those risers to get this as close to, 7.5 inches as possible. I'll also be able to go in, and if I want to open the riser, okay, as opposed to the closed riser, which is to say, now, we cannot see through it, okay? It is a deck, so in this case, if I want to adjust the board count for each of the treads, when I click on that, and I'll zoom this up, I set it to 2, and so now we're going to have 2 boards running across, each of the treads that are on there. Okay, in a similar way that we have done with the the rails that were up here, we can now specify or modify what these rails are going to do. So in the case of this stair rail that's running here, I could go to the end post, and I could even override what the dimensions are doing as far as the heights are concerned. And so I could change, if I wanted to say 4 feet, for example. And when I do that, it's going to, place, I'll zoom this, click OK on this, and just zoom this up. So you can see that I'm modifying what the tops of the rails are going to be doing, and even go so far as to come in on those posts, and if I want, add caps to them and pick from the post caps what they're going to look like, okay, as far as the handrails are concerned. And so I've just done that on here and here. It's not necessarily something that you have to do, but just kind of pointing that out. Okay, and so in this case now I will, again, my edit and duplicate tool, if I click this, I can specify and have the same thing, applied over here. And the caps are a little bit on the large side, so I'm probably going to take those off, but I just wanted to show you how that can be done on the actual plan itself. So we've got our rails in, we've got our stairs going forward, and so the next thing that I want to do is I'm actually going to adjust. So using move and adjust item, I'm going to select this rail and I'm going to adjust it back, and I'm going to sketch a quick deck stair over here on the right hand side. And so we've got about 5 or 6 minutes left, so let's see what I can get done in a short period of time, to create, kind of a sun deck, if you will, off of the right side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in through Draw and Deck, and I'm going to select this option, and I'm going to, begin by clicking here, and now I'm just kind of randomly drawing a deck out to the right side of the plan. Okay. Now when I do this, it drops the deck in, and if we were to take a look at it in 3D, I can zoom this back and we can see where the deck is actually being located. Okay, and it basically does align the entire thing, relative to, the other deck that's there. So what I will do is I'm going to edit this deck, and when I edit it, I'm going to change its offset and just push it down by, the approximate of 3 risers. And so I'll just set the offset down and drop the deck down here. Okay, and so now we have, multiple layers of decks, okay, that is going on. A couple of things that I can do with this deck. If I save it, I'm going to select deck, and in this stage now I'm going to get into using parting boards. Now, I didn't dimension this deck whatsoever. I just simply wanted to, if you will, give you the option of seeing as many tools as possible. So if I come in through the parting board deck edge, I can now click, and as I click on each side, it's going to give me the option of placing a parting board running all the way around the individual deck edges, okay? I can also come in through the deck and parting board, and I'm going to, in this case now, just draw one that's going to run all the way through. And I've got my snap-on, so I'm, approximating, or allowing SoftPlan to hit the midpoint of that deck. And so when I do this, you will see that I now have a parting board running down the center line of the deck, okay? When it does that, it breaks the surface of the deck into two separate polygons, all right? So what I could do now is I could edit this edge here, which is my deck surface edge, and I could type in my new deck angle from that edge is going to be at 45 degrees. And what it does now is it runs that deck surface, if you will, at that angle. And I could edit this edge here. It's also the deck surface edge, and I could type in 135, and I'm now running it, if you will, 90 degrees to the other one. And so as I take a look, you can see the parting board is separating these two deck edges, okay, or these two deck surfaces, and they're running in at the angles that I have set for them. Okay? Additional things that you may modify as far as the deck is concerned, you may want to come in once you have set, got your dimensions and your surfaces set, and you might chamfer your decks, deck boards that are being used on the surface. And so as you do that, it's going to just chamfer that top edge, give it that smoother, top finishing edge that's there, okay? And you can see, obviously, in the 3D, it becomes a little more apparent as well on that edge. So just something else that we could do. You can, of course, I've added all of the structural that goes in underneath this deck, but the last thing that I want to do, for today's Friday Fundamental on deck designs, etc., is I'm going to come in and I'm going to place a wraparound stair on this deck here, that's going to be our sun deck. And so what I will do is I will come in through deck. All right, and we already talked a bit about the stair option that was that we were going to to use. And if I come into the sketched option, which we used once before, I could now go down to the bottom and select the wraparound deck. Okay, and wraparound, and I'm going to click to start, and the direction I wish it to run. Click. And let's stop it there with the parting board. Okay, so as I take a look at it, you will see that the deck stair itself, okay, is building the stairs up to this individual deck and using that surface. So this gets us basically a sun deck, if you will, that's on here, and certainly as far as adding any furniture and such, we could go ahead and do that there from the symbols. And that concludes everything that we're going to be able to cover today in Friday's Fundamentals on Decks. We hope you've enjoyed it, and we do look forward to hearing back from you and perhaps seeing you again in another Friday Fundamental. Have a good weekend.